Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to crack the code on how people in the know really talk about money. You know, from the high-stakes poker table to the trading floor, just one little word can be the difference between a small bet and a massive loss. So let's get right into the simple rules that will help you sound like a pro and, more importantly, avoid some really costly mistakes.
So let's start with a scenario where getting this wrong could be, well, a disaster. Picture this. You're at a loud, fast-paced casino table. You shout out your bet. But did you just say $12.50 or did you mean $1,250? Yeah, that's a pretty expensive misunderstanding to have.
The key, and it's so simple, is a small but really critical difference in how you phrase the number. It's a subtle convention that professionals use all the time to avoid any confusion. And trust me, it's not just about sounding smart. It's about being absolutely precise when the stakes are high.
Okay, so people in these fast-moving worlds like trading or professional gambling, they have a shortcut for this. It's a simple system, and it's all about speed and just eliminating any chance of error when there's money on the line. Let's break down exactly how they do it.
Just look at the difference right here. The standard way, 1,200, that's 6 syllables. The pro way, 1,200, just 4. Now, it might not seem like a huge deal, but it's way faster to say, and honestly, it's a lot easier for your brain to process when things are happening in a split second.
So, when you see a price tag like this on a laptop, or maybe you see a stack of chips this big at a casino, the common way you'll hear it is 1,200. It's just concise, it's crystal clear, and everyone in the know understands it instantly.
And listen, this isn't just some new trend or random slang. This whole convention is built for speed and making numbers easier to process in your head. It actually has historical roots in our language. It's purely designed for efficiency.
Now, here's the catch. You can't just use this shortcut for any number. There are very specific rules to the game, and knowing them is what really makes the difference. This is where the details really matter.
So here's the general rule of thumb. This hundreds shortcut works for most numbers between 1,100 and 9,900. That's kind of the sweet spot, the main zone where you're going to hear and use this phrasing. So, for example, a scooter with this price, or a bet of this size at the table, it would be called 3,600. Not 3,600. 3,600 is the common, immediately understood way to say it.
Here's another perfect example. You would absolutely say 2,100. It just rolls off the tongue, it's smooth, and it's clear to anyone who's familiar with this stuff. 2,100 just sounds a little clunky and slow in comparison, doesn't it?
And this is a big but. This is where people often get it wrong. Knowing when not to use the shortcut is just as important as knowing when to use it. Seriously. The exceptions are what separate the amateurs from the pros.
This quote pretty much says it all. The biggest exception? Round thousands. You can say 1,100 for 1,100, but you never ever say 1,000 for 1,000. That's always just 1,000.
And this table lays out the pattern perfectly. 1,500? Yes, absolutely. That works. But a nice round number like 3,000? Nope. That's always just 3,000. And when you get up to higher, more complex numbers like 8,800, you also drop the shortcut and say the full thing for maximum clarity.
So the key takeaway here is pretty simple. For those even thousands, or for the bigger numbers getting closer to 10,000, just stick to the standard phrasing. The shortcut has a very specific and very useful lane. All right, now for the last and, honestly, the most subtle rule. This is the little detail that really signals that you know what you're talking about. It's like a classic tell on the unspoken language of money. Okay, so let's go all the way back to our original number, $1,250. There are two totally correct ways to say this, but they each have a super strict rule about using or not using a single word. And here it is, the final piece of the puzzle. If you use the short pro version, $12.50, you absolutely drop the word dollars. But if you use the long, more formal version, 1,250, you must include the word dollars. You cannot mix and match these. Saying $12.50 is probably the single biggest mistake people make, and it's a dead giveaway you're not used to these conventions. Why? Because it creates confusion. It sounds like you might be talking about $12.50, and avoiding that exact ambiguity is the whole reason these rules exist in the first place. So let's just do a quick recap. This is your pro checklist. Use hundreds for numbers like 1,500. Stick to thousands for those round numbers or the higher ones like 8,800. And most critically, if you use the short form, like 1,250, you drop the word dollars. You nail these 4 points, and you're always going to sound clear and professional.
So when it all comes down to it, is this just about sounding cool or professional?
No, it's about so much more than that. It's about being perfectly unambiguously clear. And in the world of finance, or trading, or high-stakes gaming, that kind of precision, well, it isn't just a good habit. It's what prevents catastrophic and very, very expensive mistakes.